Right now, somewhere in your life, there is a person who apologized for crying in front of someone they trusted. If that person is you, stop scrolling, because what you are about to hear will explain a decision that was made about you before you were old enough to vote on it. Somewhere between the ages of 5 and 10, someone who was supposed to catch you when you fell apart instead handed you the instructions to rebuild yourself alone in the dark. Nobody sat you down and announced it. There was no ceremony. But by the end of this script, you will know exactly which decision was made, and you will understand why you have spent your entire adult life paying interest on a debt you never agreed to take out. Here's the statement that will make some of you angry. Being fed, housed, and sent to school does not mean you were cared for. Survival is not comfort. A child can have a full stomach and an empty chest at the same time, and most people raised this way spend decades defending the very household that trained them to disappear. If that sentence made your jaw tighten, keep listening, because that reaction is data, not an insult. Sign 1. You apologize for having needs before you have even finished stating them. You ask for help, and the request arrives pre-wrapped in guilt, as if wanting something is itself the offense. This is not politeness. In the language of attachment psychology, this is a nervous system that learned early that needs were inconvenient, so it began editing them down to the smallest possible size before they ever left your mouth. This is basic behavioral physics. A system that absorbs enough pressure without ever being allowed to release it learns to compress itself permanently. Sign 2. Physical comfort feels foreign to your body. A hug lasts 3 seconds too long and your shoulders go rigid before your mind even catches up. Therapists who study emotional neglect call this a body that was never taught the choreography of being soothed. Nobody rehearsed it with you, so the muscles simply never learned the steps. Sign 3. You are the calm one in every crisis that is not your own. Friends call you when their world is burning because you deploy a strange, detached efficiency instead of panic. What looks like maturity is often a much older skill, forged the first time you had to manage an adult's meltdown instead of the other way around. You became fluent in other people's chaos because your own was never given a translator. This is the exact point where I want you to consider something, because understanding a pattern without protecting yourself from it is like diagnosing a leak and never patching the hull. If any of this is landing, the next signs will land harder, and the only shield against being blindsided by your own history is recognizing it while it happens in real time before that history calls checkmate on a version of you that stopped paying attention. That kind of vigilance is exactly what staying subscribed to this channel keeps sharpened in you, one protocol at a time. Sign 4. Silence terrifies you more than conflict does. A pause in a text conversation, a partner who goes quiet after a hard day, an unanswered message, and your mind manufactures worst-case scenarios within seconds. Silence to a child who was never comforted was never neutral. Silence was the weapon your household never had to raise a hand to use. Silence was the room after the door closed, the version of the story where nobody was coming. Sign 5. You have built a reputation as the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never falls apart, and you now find it almost impossible to unlearn the performance even when you are completely alone. Self-reliance became your only available form of self-soothing because the alternative, reaching outward, was tested once, twice, a dozen times, and quietly rejected each time until it simply stopped being worth the investment. Sign 6. You over-explain simple decisions to people who never asked for a justification. Ordering a different meal, changing plans, saying no to something small, and out comes a paragraph of reasoning nobody requested. This is not a communication flaw. This is a defense system built by a child who learned that even minor choices could trigger disproportionate reactions, so every choice since has come pre-armored with evidence. Sign 7, and this is the one most people miss entirely. You feel a strange, specific discomfort when things are going well. Peace itself makes you suspicious. Part of you is scanning for the moment it collapses, because in your original environment, calm was never trusted. Calm was the pause before the next disruption, not a state you were ever allowed to simply rest inside. None of these 7 signs are character flaws. They are adaptations, and adaptations are, by definition, intelligent responses to the environment that produced them. The mistake almost everyone makes is trying to shame these patterns into disappearing. You cannot shame a survival mechanism into retiring. You can only neutralize it, deliberately, one repetition at a time, by giving your nervous system new evidence that it did not have access to back then. That means practicing receiving comfort, even when it feels unnatural. That means sitting in stillness without translating it into danger. That means asking directly for what you need and letting the silence after the request simply be silence, not a verdict. This was never about blame. It was about accuracy. You were not broken. You were trained, by circumstances you did not choose, to run a system built for survival instead of one built for connection. Recognizing the code is the first step to rewriting the matrix that installed it. Keep your psychological armor sharpened. Keep your history in view instead of buried beneath it. And never let an outdated protocol running quietly in the background hand anyone the strings to pull you by ever again.